Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the first video that I'm doing since I got back from Europe for that big Euro trip that I did, and it's so good to be back stationary to be able to do videos like this for you guys. So I constantly get questions in my email, my comment section, PMs, etc., etc. You guys probably know a lot of you guys have sent those in. Oh man, I apologize about the backlight, guys. I promise you I'm gonna find a better place to do the video, but I wanted to hurry up and get this one out for you guys. So I received an email from a reader on my blog. A lot of you guys, for some reason, a lot of you guys who subscribe to me on YouTube don't know I actually have a blog, which has been going for over 3 years now. But I wrote an article about my experience traveling as a black person. And here's I'm going to read a portion of the email, and then I'm going to use this video to respond and to kind of update my views on this. Let's see. I wanted to message to ask if your feelings on the areas you've covered have stayed the same since you wrote this article. Have the general feeling of safety and positive interactions continue in the wake of political issues such as the recent U.S. election, things like the refugee situation from 2015? As I've heard, that's had a possible negative effect with regard to certain mindsets towards visitors and some of the attacks encountered in France, etc. And also, do you know of, recommend any blogs like yours, but from a black female's perspective? So I want to go ahead and start by saying that 2016 has been a rough year for me in this whole black travel perspective, because I've largely tried to remove myself from that narrative. Not because I have an issue with it, more so because it's becoming saturated. It's becoming the dominant narrative of black travel writers or black travel journalists. Like, this is, every other article is about, oh, this is, you know, this place is racist, this place isn't racist. And I'm like, you know, we're more than that as journalists. So I have personally made a decision to kind of move away from that narrative a little more. But I have no problem with talking about it. So I'm going to start with her second question. Do you know of or recommend any blogs like yours from a black female perspective? You guys have seen her on the channel. You guys have probably read her blogs, but Oneika the Traveler is a great friend of mine. Probably one of the most talented women that I know, black, white, Latino, Asian, anything. She's absolutely brilliant. I love her work. So Oneika the Traveler, I'll link her below. Gloria Tanmo, who just wrote a book, by the way, go pick that joint up. And Gloria, if you watch this, I'm extremely proud of you. Congratulations on your new book. And the blog abroad is her blog, and I'll recommend that below. Those two, and again, there are a lot of black females writing about travel perspective, a ton more than us brothers, but those two, I think, are at the pinnacle. Those two are at the top. All right, so let's jump into my views about if my opinion of traveling as a black person and my perspective as of a black male, obviously, has changed since I wrote that article, which was written, I wrote that article late 2014, early 2015. I don't have it in front of me, but late 2014, early 2015. So almost, you know, 2 years, I guess. Really, no, honestly. I think my perspective has changed slightly in certain areas. I've learned a lot more. I think I was at like 72, 73 countries when I wrote that. I'm now at 92 countries. So I've traveled quite a bit more, quite a bit in the last 2 years. I've changed my residency status, so I'm doing a lot more slow travel than I used to. I used to go zip, 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 zip. And I've been able to integrate a little more in cultures and learn more about different places, you know, especially in places like Poland, Thailand, South Africa. I did a couple weeks there. Gave me a different perspective on race, I'll tell you, since I wrote that article. So yeah, in a little bit of way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down each bullet point that I had in the article and re-explain or restate my point. Okay, the first point is people are genuinely curious, not malicious. A lot of times when black travelers reach out to me or they ask my recommendation, or I read the narratives that other black travel writers have written, a lot of people don't realize that the dominant narrative of what black people are, or how black people look or how we act, has come from media, especially in places that are far removed from African immigrants, such as Asia. It's the narrative is fueled by the NBA, by Nicki Minaj, by Will Smith. Like, that's the narrative. By CNN, by Al Jazeera. That's the narrative. So a lot of times people are curious because so often you'll be the only or a limited number of black faces that they've ever interacted with, let alone had the opportunity to speak or have a conversation with. So a lot of the things that people say, it comes from a place of just curiosity. Like, they're just wondering, they don't know. And as I touched on, many have media-fueled stereotypes. Like, the media is, man, the media is something else. Like, I recognize it more now than I did, 2 years ago. The media is fucking shady globally. And this isn't, like, Americans, we live in a little bubble. We like to pretend we're the center of the universe when we're not. But our perceptions of media is, oh my God, I can't believe the media is biased. Like, yeah, of course the media is biased. They're trying to sell something. They're selling division. They're selling fear. They're selling unrest. And when I go to a place like Turkey, the news is totally different. When I come back to Thailand, the news is totally different. When I go to the UK, news is totally different on the same damn story. Like, so you have to understand that when you show up in Medellin, Colombia, their perception of you is going to be fueled by whatever their media is feeding them, because a lot of times that's all that they have. Only 17% of African Americans have passports. So why do you believe that somebody in Botswana or somebody in Romania or somebody in Bangkok or somebody in Seoul, South Korea is going to understand what it really is like to be a black person? And let's not pretend that we're fucking monolith. Like, that I am not Flavor Flav black. Like, I'm closer to Will Smith black, I like to think. But it's like, we aren't the same. So even when they portray a positive image, like they throw Barack Obama on TV all the time, if you have somebody like Fetty Wap who shows up and all they know is Barack Obama, their minds are going to be fucking blown. Like, the perspective is going to be like, yo. So you got to understand, a lot of times, like, when you show up, what they think of you already, and we're all full of bias, all of us. When we show up, perception is going to be based from what the media is showing them. So when this video goes up, it would have been about a week since I posted everything from Romania, where I became the godfather of a Romanian twin. And this is something that I wrote. This is exactly what I wrote. Poor people are the most open-minded people around the world. And I think this is true of. This is still true, and I believe this even more now than I did 2 years ago. Like, poor people have been some of the most kind, welcoming, and open people I've ever met. There's very few instances where I come out of pocket for anything when I'm around people of lower means. Even though I can afford pretty much anything I want, people just give me shit just because they are open to me, and they're like, look, we want to learn about you, we want to learn about your culture, we want to understand you. Come to dinner, spend time with my family and my friends. Here's your drink. Like, let's talk. That is around the world. One thing I have learned within the last 2 years is how fucking shady wealthy people are. Like, or those who fake, who pretend to be high, so we call it high society people. I really started to recognize this the more time I spent in Bangkok. High society Bangkokians are some of the most elitist, ignorant, bigoted people I've ever met in my entire life. They are disgusting human beings. Not only because of the treatment of me, because, I mean, for the most part, I'm accepted anywhere because I'm American. I've got money. I can do whatever I want. But just the way they speak about darker skinned Thais, the way they talk about Africans, people directly from Africa, the African continent, it is disgusting. And I saw the same thing in Budapest when I lived in Budapest. I saw the same thing in Bucharest when I was in Bucharest. I saw, where was it? Oh, Medellin. I saw the same thing in Colombia also. The wealthy class, so around the world, if you think in the US and Canada and the UK that rich people are assholes, they're assholes everywhere. Next one is people don't know what to say. All right, black folks, I'm gonna call us out on this one. I say nigga a lot, like way more than I should, and I've tried to prevent myself from saying nigga as much as I do, but it is what it is. It's just part of our popular cultural nomenclature, man. And that's just me making an excuse for it, but it's just embedded in me. And I need to do better, personally. So if I say that I need to do better, imagine somebody who grew up listening to Tupac and Biggie and Kanye and Jay-Z, and like people who've only consumed our media where nigga is a prevalent word in our culture and it's a term of endearment. And a lot of black folks are like, well, it's not okay for anybody to say. Well, the fucking way it is. Like, black people are going to say nigga. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Just let it go. People who aren't black, I'm sorry, you can't. You just can't. Like, I can't tell you how often I get asked, can I call you my nigga? Or why is it okay for black people to say nigga, but it's not okay for me to say nigga? And is it okay if I sing nigga? Like, no, no, and no. I'm sorry. Just no. People, if you ain't black, you can't say nigga. Let's just go with that. So the next one is racism is much worse in my head than it actually is. I've said this a lot. 2016 is the best year to be a black man. And 2017 is going to be better. Today is the best day in history to be a black man. And tomorrow is going to be better. It has consistently gotten better to be a black man around the globe. Granted, I am not blind to the reality of what's going on back home. It is prevalent. It is disgusting. It needs to be addressed. However, I will say that when I receive emails or private messages from people who say, well, hey man, I heard the races in Germany. Or, oh my God, this fucking Atlanta Black Star article. By the way, Atlanta Black Star is one of the most bigoted, racist, ignorant pieces of shit website I've ever seen in my entire life. They are absolutely disgusting. The narratives that they fuel perpetuates the stereotype of African Americans on a global scale. They need to be shut down. It enrages me when people send me a link to this specific article that Atlanta Black Star called the 8 worst countries for African Americans, and it's like Germany, Spain, Thailand, the UK. Like, it's some of the most neutral, non-racist places I've ever been in my entire life. And they perpetuate this idea. So when people see that article, which is all over the internet now, and then they message me and say, hey, I heard Germany and Spain are racist. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Look, there are places in the world that are openly bigoted and racist, that have passed racist legislation, like the Dominican Republic and their treatment of the Haitian descended peoples. But there's no place on the planet that's worse than the United States of America. The United States of America is the most bigoted and racist place on the planet Earth. On the planet Earth for black men. Period. I've never been shot at. I've never been called a nigga out here. I've never been robbed in my own neighborhood. All that stuff has happened in the U.S. I've never seen friends get shot. I've never been harassed by police here. All of that has happened in the United States. So when you start throwing out these terms about countries being racist, you can miss me with that, especially if you haven't been there. You haven't spent any time in these countries. And it's like, people of color, like, a lot of times we are given this narrative that the world is this big, scary place that hates us. That can be the furthest thing from the truth. I just met 2 more brothers 2 nights ago at a friend's bar. And one of them lives in Japan. He speaks 4 languages and he does Japanese translations. Another brother, he sells hair, which is funny. He sells hair. So he flies back and forth between Asia, India, back to the US. and he sells haircare products. And we all agreed on the same thing. Like, the fact that more people of color aren't traveling is insane to us, because it is a great life outside of the U.S. I don't know how else to put it, guys. Honestly, racism in my head is far worse. Racism in your head, if you never left the U.S., it's far worse than what you'll experience out here. All right, so I was gonna talk about this one just from a black man's perspective, but I have enough black female friends and journalists, friends who've written about this to be able to make this statement. As a person of color, as a black person, you're going to be sexually fetishized by locals in Asia, Central and Eastern Europe, South America. It is what it is. Sorry, black women, it's going to happen. If you go to a place that has a large amount of prostitution, African specifically prostitution, if you're out at night in certain areas, you're going to be mistaken for a prostitute. There's an area, I'm in Bangkok right now, and there's a certain area that's about, let's say maybe it's about a 2-mile area where you walk down the street and pretty much every black woman you see is a prostitute, and every brother you see is a pimp. That's how it is here. It can be the same thing can be said of Barcelona. The same thing can be said in London. I mean, that's just a reality. We are fetishized globally for our bodies because that's how we've always been portrayed in the media. And economically, that's what some people have to resort to survive. And, you know, I might get in a little trouble for this, but it's good and bad. For me, as a single black man traveling the world, it's easy to date. It's very easy for me to date. If you're a sister that's into German guys and you go to Berlin, it's going to be easy for you. And again, from a male perspective, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. But from a female perspective, as I've been told by females who I trust, it's not all gravy. Sometimes they get sexually harassed, they get cat calls, and they fear for their safety. So, brothers, you got to be cognizant. And again, this goes back to the whole privilege thing. I have male privilege. I have American passport privilege. I have economic privilege. This is a privilege that, say, Oneika and Gloria can't enjoy, the male privilege. But they can get the passport economic privilege. So, guys, be aware of your privilege. And be ready to be accosted, men and women. Be prepared to figure out how to deal with that, because it might happen. Okay, and the last point is you have a chance to educate people. Too often I hear people of color who've traveled a little bit, and they'll read an account of something that happened negatively and say, oh, well, I would have went off on his ass, or I would have, if he would have said that to me. And it's like, yo, B, like, that's not how things change. Like, you perpetuating the stereotype of the angry black person in a foreign country doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you, it doesn't help me, it doesn't help our people overall. What you can do is you can educate people. You have an opportunity to educate people. And that's why I love doing videos like this. This video is not only to educate people of color about what it's like to travel as a person of color and a black man, but it's to educate those who aren't people of color, who don't understand what it's like to travel as a person of color. I can't tell you how many times my friends have been like, well, why do you write about being black and traveling? Isn't it the same? No, it's not the same, because people of color have different experiences. Women have different experience. Muslims have different experience. Asians have different experience. We all have different experience when we're in a culture that's not our own. When we're in if you're a middle-class white kid and you got dropped in my neighborhood where I grew up, the racism and the shit you're going to experience is going to be equal to what I'm experiencing. So it goes both ways. You know, it really is about taking your opportunity to educate somebody who might not understand why it's inappropriate to call me my nigga, or why it's what it's really like being harassed by police officers. You know, one of the biggest things that helped in apartheid was international pressure. And that's because people understood and learned and interacted with South Africans, telling the real story of what it was like. That's what we need to do as African Americans and people of color, is like we need to let people know around the world what it's like to really be African American beyond the fucking bling bling and Lil Wayne videos. Like you have to take the opportunity that you have. And yes, it is a responsibility as well. You might not have signed up for it, but it is. We represent our people when we travel. We represent ourselves, we represent our families, we represent our faiths, we represent our country. And again, sometimes that's not fair, but it is what it is. Like, you have an opportunity to educate and change people's minds about us, so take it and use it. All right, guys, I got a little bit ranty on a couple of these. I know I got a little bit rambly as I normally do. So I want to, again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please comment below what you think. I touch on a lot of stuff here. So let me know what you think. If you're a person of color, let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And why? And don't be just leaving comments like, ah, this is bullshit, blah. Tell me why you disagree, please. Yeah. I've been going through comments lately, guys. It's been absolutely nuts. So again, thank you so much. Make sure you guys leave questions. PM me questions. Go over to minoritynomad.com to go look at some of my writings. Go check out Oneika the Traveler, the blog abroad, Gloria Atanmo. And remember, leave the world better than you found it. I'll see you guys later.